Okay, welcome everybody. Do I have an echo? Think I might have an echo. No? I do have an echo. Is that bothering anyone? Okay. Check. Do I have an echo? Okay, good. Thank you all for joining us tonight. This is a meeting of Frome Town Council's Community and Place Committee. I'm Carla Collinette and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. Just to remind everyone, we do also have people online and here in the room. For those in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room and the assembly point is the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right and there is an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. Help yourselves to cups of tea. Tonight, Peter will clerk, Rachel, Laura and Joe will manage the minutes, question boards, participant settings and the IT generally. The meetings will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. For those councillors attending via Zoom, please use the yellow hand and for everyone else, ask questions through the question and answer board. First on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any?
We have apologies from Anita Collier, Anne Hills and Steve Tanner. We're also expecting Tracy Ashford online and so should accept her apologies as well.
Okay, thank you. So next,
propose to accept those apologies.
oh, we do, thank you. Are you proposing?
I'm proposing.
Andy Jones proposing to accept, seconding. Zara?
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Declarations of councillors' interests. Anybody got anything to declare? Nope. Okay, minutes of the last meeting on the 11th of June. Who would like to propose to accept them? Steve Tanner in the form of Fiona. Ah. Fiona, who would like to second that? Mark Dorrington. Okay.
Fiona, are you voting? That's unanimous.
Thank you. Questions and comments from the public and councillors that's not directly related to the main agenda items? Andy.
Just one thing that's been raised to me as a councillor is the proliferation of banners being attached to railings and roundabouts and things around the town. I don't know if we have any contacts with who's meant to control that or if there's any pressure we can bring to bear to try and get them reduced or tidied up. I'm thinking particularly around Badcocks, around Sainsbury's roundabout. They're the ones that particularly I walk past regularly.
Rachel, do you want to pick that up?
Yes, it is one of those responsibilities that generally is a Somerset responsibility, but we've got practically no chance of getting anybody out to come and do that. We can ask Rob. I know the Rangers have sometimes been able to help in that department, particularly in and near around the town centre. Mike's doing a brilliant job in the town centre. But yeah, if councillors want, we can ask to extend that to the wider area.
I was just going to respond.
Okay.
Just to add to that, when Katie Fraser, our town centre coordinator, returns from holiday, my intention is to have a conversation with her and with other colleagues about how we can address that issue. So certainly I'll take that as an action to have those conversations to see if we can find a solution to it.
Nick, did you still have a comment? Is it related to that point?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Mike is in the town centre itself, which doesn't kind of cover the points out by Sainsbury's. Mike has been taking them down, contacting the people who put them up and saying, we've got them, we hang on to them, do you come and collect them? I don't know if anyone has. I've been speaking to some of the people saying, you know, this is an offence, you're not supposed to do this. Yeah, I mean, people, I think, when told, they understand. I think, Andy, you contacted the gym people, didn't you? And they took theirs down quite quickly. They sort of put them around the town. So there is something going on, but it's not wider, I think.
Fiona?
I mean, I think it's really good that we do it in the town centre. I think it has a real impact there. I think that it's one of those things though, that could end up taking up, particularly with our range, take up a lot of time if we start trying to go beyond the town centre up to sort of, roundabouts and everything, and could end up being quite time consuming given that we have limited capacity in the ranger team. So I think it's great what Mike is doing, but personally I think we should just keep it to the to the town centre, and then see if, things like emailing the, contacting the organisations, I think is great, Andy, that you're doing that. But I don't think it's particularly good use of staff time. I think it could end up being quite, a lot of staff time.
Just further to what Fiona said in terms of saving costs in terms of staff time, I'm wondering if something in the Frome Times, like an article from Anita Collier, who's been really passionate about traffic and road safety, raising concerns about visibility and things like that, might be worth doing as a low-cost, visible solution.
What do people think? So just reminding people that these committee meetings are more of a discussion, that we have got mics because we need to record and we're broadcasting, but actually, so it does kind of create a false sense of bum, 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 but actually we're also trying to just have a discussion. So do feel, I will, try and catch my eye, but also do feel free to jump in. If it gets out of control, then I will.
I think it's a form of graffiti, and we should have a zero tolerance towards it and take it down. But we as a town council put them up as well. So where's the rule? It probably feeds into the issue around political or not political.
Yeah. Go on.
I was just going to say, there are some, though. I mean, when the Saturday and Independent Market have their flags up, we don't really complain about those. So I do think we have to think about being fair as well. I mean, on the whole, I agree with you. But I think the town centre is more important than the out-of-town areas like Sainsbury's. But I think we can be a bit judicious, maybe, because, things like promoting the market are really important. So I think...
Okay. I'll have a chat with Anita and see if she feels like picking it up as either part of her column or as a letter, but leave that with me.
Like you say, something in the, maybe some people don't even realise that they shouldn't be doing it. That could stop some.
I would just like to add, quite a lot of the banners are from businesses outside Frome. I really, personally, really hate them, but there we go. Just me. Not the businesses, the banners.
And Andy, let me just check. So you said that you'd be happy to speak to Anita.
Yeah, I'll take an action to speak to Anita, and I'll also walk around town with a pair of secateurs in my back pocket.
Just really quickly, could we signpost to the new Discover Frome website that if businesses locally want to advertise, that they could do that on the Discover Frome or events, that's a place that should go? It just feels like maybe we could feed a couple of birds with one hand in this.
Thank you. Any other comments on that topic? Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. So we move to the first item on the agenda, which is an update on the work of the marketing and communications team. I think we've got the whole team presenting tonight. Who's starting?
Hello, we've got the whole team presenting tonight, and I think probably the biggest bit of work that we've been doing this year has been Discover Frome. So I think Amber's going to start with a little bit of a look at Discover Frome and some of the new features that you might not be aware of, so that you can all help spread the word.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see so many of you. I haven't seen a lot of you for a long time. For those of you that aren't familiar, Discover Frome is our official tourist information website, and also physical information hub down in the library, but not only for tourists, but also for residents of Frome. And this is our brand new website. I want to start off by saying that things aren't massively different. So it has had a revamp, and it does look a lot more modern, a lot cleaner. It's much more easy to use now. It doesn't look massively different, but the major changes have come from more like the internal workings of the website, making things a lot more user-friendly, a lot more accessible. Those were quite high on the priority list for the brief for this website. So yeah, I'm going to give you a little tour around. So this is the homepage when you first come into the website. As you can see, we've got lovely big, this is called a mega menu at the top of the screen. So it's very easy now to think about what it is that you're coming onto the website to do, and then to actually navigate your way around the website. So everything's split up into quite easy to understand sections. And also all of the things that were on the previous website are still here as well. So if you were familiar with the old website and you are a frequent user of the website, or you uploaded events or anything like that quite often, then all of those things are still very accessible and easy to use and find on here. But just for now, I will show you the rest of this homepage. So we do have another enhanced search function here. The old website was about 12 years old, I believe. Is that right, Rachel? So about 12 years old. And because of that, the old search function was very outdated. So trying to find anything on the old website was quite more difficult than you would expect. But with the new website, the SEO and all of the kind of internal workings have been greatly improved. So it's actually so much easier to find things now, which is, I guess, a lot more useful if you're coming to Frome for the first time and you want to know something about the cheese and grain, or if you want to find, I don't know, some accommodation, or what is the best restaurant in Frome. You can find it all right here. But I will let people go away and do all of that in their own time if you so wish to do a bit further digging. Straight away, we come to our events calendar, which I think is arguably the most used feature on our website. There is a snapshot here of the events that we have going on in Frome, and as you can see, it's really clear and just fresh, clean. It's very easy to understand. All of the information that you need is there just straight away, so it's nice and clear. And coming a bit further down, we've got our usual news posts. So all of the posts that we used to do on the website in terms of event calendar roundups and promoting anything else in terms of events and things in Frome, they are all appearing here as usual, just in a different layout, a different format, so it looks a lot more user-friendly. It's a lot nicer on the eye. And then we've got some nice new features for this website. So everything, as I was saying earlier, everything's split into different categories. So if you're looking for something specific, if you're looking for maybe some outdoor activities to do in Frome, there is a section for outdoor activities. If you're looking for indoor activities, if you're looking for something to do with the history and heritage in Frome, it's all here. So it's it's quite self-explanatory, really. And I think by making the homepage this kind of hub where all of the information is accessible, but not in a way that's really totally overwhelming and stuff, is a lot nicer to use. But also, if you want to actually contribute to the website, it's very easy to do that now. And also not only for external people or people who are looking to upload their business or their event or news, or so whatever it is, it's also a lot easier for us who are working on the website from our end of things. The processes have become a lot simpler now. So with this new development, things like events certainly uploading events has become a lot more automated. So it actually frees up quite a lot of admin time, which has been a massive relief, actually. Yes. So just kind of come on to that next, actually. So that's just a little tour of the homepage, but obviously everything else is a lot more accessible from here. Let me just, oh, can you still see that? My screen. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Screen share. Sorry. Okay, so essentially the itinerary planner, which is a brand new feature of the new website, you can see it actually on the screen. I just can't see it on mine. So the My Visit is a brand new feature for this website, which we really wanted to implement. And essentially you can favourite or save a lot of the events and listings and things on the website, and they all populate into that My Visit tab. So basically it will, so as Fiona is very kindly demonstrating, thank you. You can like or save a lot of these events and listings and things on the website, and they will all populate in that tab. And you can essentially customize your visit or your trip to Frome, or if you are a resident and you come across an event that you think, oh, that sounds interesting, then it can be saved in there. And you also have the ability to share your itinerary. Thank you, Sarah. You have the ability to share your itinerary. Now, what I was trying to do was get rid of this. Let's see. Here we go. Your visit. So I actually liked some events and things earlier, so I could demonstrate this. So you can see I've saved a couple of events and I've saved a couple of listings. And what this will do is it will put it all into this tab, so you can see everything all together, the things that you've saved for later. And it will make a little map of the places that you've saved, so you can see visually. It's a lot easier to see where things are going on in Frome. And you can share your trip with yourself or with somebody else. If you're planning your trip with another person, you can share your trip by sending them a personalized link of these things that you've saved. So it's really useful if you're trying to plan something and you don't want to have all the information in different places. It's just all there.
So is the accommodation included in that?
Yeah, so all of the listings are included. All of the listings, all of the events are included, because you'll see, if I show you an example, if we go on to arts and entertainment, the listings come up here. If you want to visit the Frome Memorial Theatre, you would save it and it will appear in your My Visit. Similarly, under Plan Your Visit, you'll see all the accommodation listings. So if you want to stay at the Archangel, as an example, you'll go back to My Visit, scroll down to past the events to the listings, and there's some that I liked earlier as well, like the Discover Frome Point and Cheese and Grain, but they will come up here. There are a couple of, just as we've only just launched the website, there are a couple of teething problems. So I did notice that some of the geographical locations on the Google Maps aren't coming up, but that's all things that we can smooth over quite easily. But in general, it's a lot easier. Go on.
Do you want questions as we're going through, or do you want to kind of finish and then take all questions?
Questions as I'm going through is fine.
Yeah, it looks great, and I like all the features on it. I'm just wondering what we're doing with the metrics. I think it could be quite important to the businesses to see how many people are looking at it, whether they're looking at the listings, whether they're biting on that, what their competition is. It feels like it could be quite a resource in terms of trade and events, and also gives us an opportunity to look to see if there's any gaps, and is there a feature where people can say what they'd like to do that maybe isn't there? I know that that's a slightly different proposition, but just in terms of supporting the businesses and the events people within the town.
Shall I come back to that? Yeah, just so once a month, and we'll come back to, Lucy's going to talk a bit about metrics in a minute anyway. Yes, it's really important. There are loads of eyes on this website. Any town would be really proud to have the thing. So absolutely, yes, that's something we could at a later date share in a particular way with businesses. We've already started sharing it. Amber and I attended a meeting with Tracy. Tracy chaired it along with the venues because they'd requested it. So we showcased this to them because they're the main, the event scraping element of it is really, really important and should make an enormous difference to them. And, already anecdotally will, because they won't have to find time to add their listings to it. And it will simply be a case of Amber pressing go, really. So, but yeah, absolutely, metrics are really important. And, we always keep track of metrics. We do a report every month.
That was less of the question. I assumed that you'd do that because you're very good at your job. But just in terms of if I were a business in the town, I'd be quite interested in what was happening on the website and how people were responding to listings or my business. And I just think it could support businesses and event planners' understanding of what has traction, what doesn't.
I mean, I would totally agree, and I would say actually that getting businesses and everybody to on board and make sure everybody's listing is there is some. I mean, you have emailed out to everybody already, haven't you? Just to ask everybody to
Can I just say on Lisa's point, though, that they'll be able to see from their, in terms of click-throughs, they'll be able to see what comes through them on their own side of things if they have websites and everything set up. So I mean, that would be interesting to see, like, what their, what the click-through rates is. But maybe it could, if we have, we have an email list of local businesses. I mean, it wouldn't be that specific. I see what you mean, but I still think sort of, that could be interesting to share some of these statistics with that list, maybe. I mean, I think when this is sort of, we've always sort of spoken, this is sort of first stage, essentially, of the new Discover Froome, and there are additional features and things we'd like to add going forward. I think the only thing I just want to say is, I'm not going to get into the technicality of it, but it's what I love about it is how flexible it is. Like, it's been designed in a way that you can literally change the entire website quite fairly easily. I mean, it would take work, but all the cover photo, but even like the layout of the homepage, how everything is sort of organized. So if we wanted to have like a month, devoted to like sustainability or something, you could make the whole Discover Froome highlight everything that's sustainable in Froome, for instance. So it's really, really flexible, which I just think is brilliant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nick's been patiently waiting.
Very much. Great, it's great, and I appreciate there's a lot of work on. Just a few quick questions. Is it going to save your team some time? Okay.
100%.
So you've lost your job, is that what you're saying?
Maybe 99%.
What's the range when you go in and say I want to go for somewhere to eat? How far out do we go into Wiltshire or Somerset? Have we got a rule around that or not?
That's a good question. I feel like we it's down to judgment, really. I think in terms of listings and things, we'll mainly prioritise Froome and surrounding villages, surrounding areas. Some kind of like landmarks and attractions that are well known in the area as well. But that's...
Yeah, so it would be remiss to not have Longleat on there, for example, even though that's probably further than we would normally go. Otherwise, it's villages that touch, really.
Thanks. And the last thing was, it's great that so businesses can post their own stuff on there, can't they?
Yeah.
How do we stop someone posting something that we think is unsuitable? Is there something, you're the mediator or whatever they title it?
Exactly that, yeah. So everything has to come through a mediator first. So it all comes into the website in the back end, and then everything has to be approved. So it does get checked over by one of us, and then it will be when it is checked over and everything is fine, all the correct information is there, it will then go live onto the website. So it won't be spammed with unnecessary or inappropriate information, but it is a lot easier for people to find our website and think, my business would look really good on there, or my event would look really good on there, and we can then make the final call. Yeah, you're welcome.
Just quickly, is there some Frome Town Council branding on there somewhere? Does it say this is a service provided by Frome Town Council?
It does in the small print at the very, very bottom. Really, we're trying to promote the Discover Frome brand.
Yeah, I just think, it's something that we're spending all this council tax on, so
Yeah,
it should be clear that it's not a commercial offering.
Yeah, yes.
Related?
Just really quickly, I'm sure that you've thought of this, but have you signposted other DMOs to this, particularly ones in Bath?
We
Destination management organisation.
We haven't yet. We're just on the rounds of doing the businesses, so that Amber's not entirely overwhelmed. We've started with the venues. We're doing the town centre businesses, then we move out, and then it will go further afield. But alongside this, we're also doing a sort of package of Discover Frome promotion, both digital and press-wise. So, and through Glade Media, who are the organisation who distribute tourist information broadly now.
Great, thank you. 12 years. Finally.
Amber's not that old, not old enough to have been.
I know you weren't working on it for 12 years.
No. So I think that brings us next to, so in the spirit of not having us not sitting here and reading a list of things that we've done over the last, however, I think we're now going to show a film. Ooh. Just a quick little film to give you a taste of some of the things that we've been doing. Oh, and it also brings Laura into the room. Laura is the member of our team who's on holiday, so she's kindly did the voiceover for it.
Thank you.
Good.
The marketing communications team's role is to amplify and publicise the council's work, facilitate engagement and participation, host events and support other events across the town, and invite both residents and visitors into the town. This happens in all the ways you might expect: press releases, signage and printed digital assets, social media, e-newsletters, managing bookings, putting posters on our volunteer-managed network of 28 community notice boards, and arranging interviews for local and regional radio and TV. We monitor our digital channels closely and make data-driven changes to our strategy based on what we find out. Recently, this includes the revamp of the extremely popular Discover Frome website. The current Communicating With Us survey, adapted from the local government association's Who Reads What, will similarly feed into our comms strategy, providing vital data about where and how people prefer to access information and share ideas, including people we don't reach online. The Discover Frome Information Point offers tourists and residents another way to access a wide range of information, thanks to a team of dedicated and friendly volunteers. We provide practical and in-kind support for town hall users, setting up rooms and refreshments, ensuring the perfect wedding day, or lending chairs, tables, gazebos and games, and even more for events across the town from our community borrowing library. We also make sure events happening in our open spaces have the appropriate insurance and risk assessments to run safely, and we arrange road closures where needed. We work closely with other teams at FTC, supporting them with comms, logistics and staffing as needed. Recent examples include Safer School Streets, Act to Adapt, Solar and Beyond, Midsummer Mischief for Refugee Week and the Key Centre project. Our multifaceted approach ensures we are visible to everyone, interacting with and reaching people where they are, and talking with people, not just to them. Just as council funding helps to make things happen around Frome, our friendly, helpful support makes life easier and enhances the council's reputation in the process. Whether we're wrestling a gazebo, writing a press release or staffing an event, we help ensure that FTC remains transparent, accessible and trusted by the community it serves.
And just to say, in that picture, we've got Macy and Joe, who are our current summer placements. So thanks to them. Yeah. Yes, so that's good. So next up.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I talked quite a lot about lots of metrics at the Oversight Committee in March, so just doing a little update on a few things that have happened from April to August. So one of the things I talked about Oversight was that we were going to start using AI for time saving to free up admin time. So since March, I've been collating all the data that we collect about all our various platforms and things that we collect data on, and they've all been in separate spreadsheets over time, just because we've added one and we've added a spreadsheet about it. So I have compiled them all into one mega spreadsheet, and also added some metrics that we weren't recording that I wished we had recorded. And the only reason that's been possible is because I've used AI, because you can put an old set of data in and it will spit out the numbers at you much faster than I could do it myself. So that spreadsheet includes things like Ticketailor, the websites, and our social media platforms. Everything is in there basically. So it means at the end of the year, we can use AI again and get it to produce a big data set, a report of everything that we've done. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how people get to the FTC site. I'm not talking about Discover Frome because we've just totally changed the rules of that game, but we will be gathering lots of metrics, and it'll be interesting to see whether we want to record different things than we have in the past. Discover Frome has always had a much higher footfall than the FTC site. So hopefully that will be even more the case now. So the majority of people who come to the FTC site, 68%, come to us through organic search, which is really good. That's a good thing. So it means that we're a trusted source of information and people are putting things into a search engine and coming to us because of the keywords and metadata that we put behind it. They're getting to highly relevant information. So that's a really healthy sign for a website to have a high level of organic search. The second is direct, which means is good too, because it means people aren't even going through a search engine, they're coming straight to the FTC site for what they want to know. Third is organic social, which means the social media that we don't pay any money for, so not ads, which is also good. It means that we're producing shareable content that's driving people to the website. That is 10%. Referrals is 2%, which is when we've got a link on someone else's website, which you'd expect to be low for someone like us because it's more of a business-to-business thing, putting links on everybody else's website. And like we say, people are coming straight to us. And the smallest is paid social, but that could be, I think, because people are clicking on our ads and that often takes them to Ticketailor or to somewhere else. It doesn't necessarily drive them to the website. So we use paid ads sparingly anyway, but I think the metrics in other places suggest they are doing their job. The top performing pages the top one is always council, community and business info. The jobs page always scores really high. And weirdly, since April, May, June and July, the D2 bus information page and news posts are always in the top 5 results in the views. So I've made sure that we haven't got any old timetables on. I don't really know what we can do apart from that, but people love the D2. And the other top performing pages always in the top 5 are the jobs page, well, when we've got jobs up, and council meetings. I won't talk too much about social media because it's not really my domain, but Amber and Laura have regular meetings about that. And we, as I said in March, we have been doing some A/B testing to see how video works. And usually what you find out is the answer you're expecting, that video does better. We're not finding that quite as much as we anticipated, but we find that actually still images are just as effective for us. But we have tweaked our strategy and it certainly hasn't damaged any of our metrics. So we're not using FTC Instagram very much for new posts. We're doing a bit of reels, a bit of video, lots of collaboration and sharing, and all our metrics have stayed really healthy and it's freed up some admin time. Facebook is always our biggest platform. So the FTC Facebook account has 7,176 followers, which grows steadily month on month. And as we said, it's driving quite a lot of traffic to the website. There's quite a lot of engagement on there. It is where it gets a bit it's where the roller coaster is when people are not happy about things in the news. FTC Insta has 3,960 followers, so we do have quite a big following on there. But as I said, we're finding that our new approach is just as successful and it saves us time. Discover Froome Facebook is 3,713 and Discover Froome Insta is 2,892. So they're all healthy audiences. So I think the time we spend on social is justified by the response we get at the moment. So I think that was all I wanted to say for now. Has anyone got any questions, or would you want to know something that I haven't talked about?
Fiona?
A couple of things to say that's really interesting, and obviously we can finish sorting out Discover Froome, but I think we all feel that the main Froome Town Council website is next in line for a revamp. Let's not rush into it. I think we probably all need you all need a bit of a breather, but just to sort of flag that I think that is, yeah, we need to get that done as well, I think. And then just to say, I'm going to sort of preempt, so I looked at me, I know what she was going to say. AI is, I think it can be incredibly useful and incredibly valuable and a really useful tool. And particularly when it comes to like amalgamating lots of data and stuff, it is incredible. And it has a really horrific environmental impact. It's the amount of water that it consumes, et cetera, et cetera. So I have been thinking for a while that as a town council, we do need a responsible AI policy. It's kind of been on my list, and obviously I've been a bit busy, so I haven't got to it yet. But I just kind of wanted to put that in sort of a bit more formally, that I know that lots of staff members and councillors, myself included, are sort of experimenting with it at the moment, and I think that's great. And I think we probably do have to have a look at how we're using it as a council to make sure, in my opinion, that we're only using it when it really does add value and it can be really useful and it is, a time saver, etc., and not just sort of willy-nilly, for want of a better word, which I don't think you're doing, but I just think we do need a responsible AI policy as a council. So I just wanted to flag that.
Just wondering how do we draw that up? Kind of who does that sit? Whose responsibility does that sit within? So I'm looking to Sarah. Yeah. Do you have a question response?
Yes, yeah, directly to that. We can't be the only council looking at using AI, and I suspect that there's others who have it embedded in quite a bit of their work. To save workload, can we look to see who's doing it, look to see what their policies say, and perhaps adapt it for our use rather than reinventing the wheel? London might be a good start.
The site with the organisation Apolitical. I think so they have, they connect all public servants, many councils, so they run trainings for a start on various aspects of AI, but for sure we'll have resources and discussions.
Taunton Town Council also has one, which I have to admit to stealing, not stealing, borrowing quite a lot from Taunton Town Council. They tend to have a lot of stuff because they were sort of set up new. So, I think we can start, it's a good starting point to start with someone else's and then see what we would want to change, or start with a couple and go from there.
I'm also wondering if there's any training that takes place for councillors or staff, whether we could open that up into businesses and offer an opportunity for other people to upskill, considering that it's going to be a bit of a...
To citizens.
Business owners, citizens, people within the community who may be interested for their own businesses. It's a new wave that's coming, and it feels like if we're already paying for that, it might be nice to offer that out a little bit further to the community if possible.
The training that I was signposting, it's free. If you have a .gov.uk email address, it's completely free. So all of us can sign up to Apolitical and there's lots and lots of training, and it's all completely free. Yeah.
I'm sure there's something in a calendar about ChatGPT training coming up, isn't there, for us? Yeah, there is. Yeah, fine. I kind of. I hear what you're saying, but there's something about, this is technology. This is something that's happening, and we all have these things. There's a whole range. Where do we stop? And I think there's other things we might focus our time on where we might have a chance to influence it, rather than saying let's try and write policies around things that are hugely challenging and evolving all the time.
I just think it's more about how we. I'm not talking. It's off limits. It's how we as a council use AI, and I guess it's just sort of making sure that we're using it. I just think it's important to use AI. I completely agree. It's new technology. it's very exciting. It has a lot of potential and it can be very useful. And I think we just need to make sure that we're using it in a responsible way. There's a difference between using it to do something what, Lucy's just described, and using it to, I don't know, like write something that could have been written very quickly, or to create a meme like that. People use them to like create memes of like dolls or something. Like stuff like that really annoys me, because I think it's just not, what's the point? It's just wasting, resources. So it's just about us being responsible about how we're using it, and also making sure that everything produced by AI is also checked by humans, because there are dangers to it. I'm not saying it needs to be high priority. I just think it needs to be on our radar for,
From models that are more ethical than others.
Yeah.
Still the Wild West, and including some of the community to hear that and be part of it and assess their own use of AI responsibly would be worth offering, I think.
So just wondering how we pick that up in terms of, so you're requesting that we offer something to the community around AI.
And if we're doing something internally, and I'm not saying that we pursue that per se, but if it is something that we do for staff and councillors, just wondering if that opportunity could be extended to a wider group.
Sure. As we develop our own policy, then when we've got something more finalised, we can decide what training we're going to disseminate out. And maybe that would include an ethical use within it. Or
Okay. Have we finished that first paper?
We have nearly finished that first paper. Suffice to say that we are talking a lot about the other thing that we're doing at the moment that's taking up quite a lot of time is the communicating with us, otherwise known as the Who Reads What in local government parlance, if you are of that way in mind. It's ongoing. There are some things that it's throwing up. It's quite interesting. Broadly, it's really supporting everything that we know that's coming through, and the strategic changes that the strategic tweaks, that shall we say, that we were already making. It does look like it's going to have interesting ramifications for things like the digital platform. There's not a whole lot of knowledge around what it is, so it indicates that it is going to be quite a large piece of work to get everybody on board, but that's great to know at the outset, but and helpful to inform the discussion. The other thing that there seems to be quite a big appetite for, well, firstly, face-to-face discussions. That's really, people are really valuing that, and that's really important, and would like to see more of that. But also, there seems to be an appetite for WhatsApp communities. So that is something that Laura's been looking into, and we will bring something back if we're going to change or start or begin a new thing. So just to sort of put that on the radar so that you know that it's coming down the line. And yes, I think that's all we've really got. Everything else around what we're launching into is in the back of the paper if anyone wants to know what we're doing next.
Great. Thank you. Rachel's team part 1.
Oh yeah, sorry. So it's a bit more
That's
of me.
the theme of the meeting.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Own the space.
So the next paper is about events. So this draws on from the decision from council to oversight to bring them back here, and it's something that sort of is almost needs to be a standing agenda because it changes all the time. It's an opportunity for me to just flag new events that are coming on, to highlight anything that we think we ought to talk about, and also to flag any issues. So without further ado, a new and exciting thing is happening in the park, Canteen, on next Friday, which is next 15th, happening on 15th, next Friday. Yeah. And that is very interesting. We're simply supporting that with logistics and providing outside planning advice, and of course the community borrowing and the support. We're also going to do a bit of helping them get the tables and all of the stuff up there. You'll be pleased to know that's with support stewards, not with rangers. Rangers aren't going to be rolled out for this, so that's really great. We've got some more event support stewards who are happy to drive the van, and that feels like a good use of their, upskilling. So that's really good, and that's happening next Friday. We're excited to see, I think it's in quite a lot of people's eyes to do more community dining or see more community dining going around the town. So that will be a really exciting sort of first step. Obviously, canteen is really already fairly, beginning to establish itself. So that's really exciting to be able to support that. The next, Frome Pride Parade. So this is something that I believe Frome Pride received a community grant for, amongst lots of other things. The parade has grown significantly over the number of years. It was firstly going to go into the market, then that was judged unsafe. So then they were trying to bring it to its own parade in town in the mid-July. Due to a number of reasons, that's not happened. This year, I'm delighted to report that the Carnival are going to have the Pride Parade within the Carnival. So I think that's a really nice mix, and hopefully will bring, benefits for both the Frome Pride and Frome Carnival, and they're both very excited to be working with each other. So that is a win. And just hot off the press today, Carnival Club have agreed to support Frome Pride Parade standing on its own next year. So that's a ... watch this space. So that's that one. Balancing the scales. Now this is one of those events that is a right quick catch. So some of you might not have not know about it. Balancing the Scales is a new film that's been put out by the Beaver Trust, and the proposal from the newly formed Frome Beaver Watch is a film and a Q&A, not that dissimilar to the Wilding event that we had last year. I believe you've already agreed to do the Q&A for them, host them. And again, it's really light touch from us. It's not too difficult, not too time consuming, and is an easy sell. Already really popular, yes. I think nearly sold out, I'm not sure, and we haven't even promoted it yet. So those who are sneaky enough to get onto the Merlin's website will have already booked tickets. But FDC staff and councillors will have tickets reserved. So we'll let you know. Nikhil mail out later for you to just get your tickets here. Pancake race. I can't actually remember whether I've talked about pancake race in this forum or not. You don't think I have? Okay. So this is an interesting proposition that has come from Wixhill. Wixhill are the PR people for Andros, a really big employer of this town. And they have come to us and asked us if we would like to deliver a pancake event, and they would like us to produce it, and they will pay for it. We are still in process of negotiations for that. It's not yet clear whether there is time in for staff time yet. It's hoped that they will also pay for staff time to deliver it. The proposal so far is it will be an event that goes all the way through the town. It will be from the bridge up to the Boyle Cross, probably as the finish. And yes, pancake tossing. February the door, then, yeah. Yes, they could. The idea is it will be a community event where lots of teams join in it. The vision for it is interesting, and it's interesting that it's been brought to us by one of our biggest employers that actually we don't really have had much to do with. So that's ongoing, the discussions and negotiations around that. I hope that's of interest. Obviously, when there's financial implications, then I'll bring it back and let you know what they actually what it actually means in terms of what we need to do. But yes, Valentine's Day is the proposed best day in the calendar. So there we are. That should be quite interesting. Street closures, first tranche have been completed. I can, hot off the press, second tranche have been completed, have they? Nikki? Yes, brilliant. So that's the road closures that we put in collectively. They're quite big. It's quite a lot of paperwork. It's all a lot of things to sort out, but there we go. Nikki's on the case. VE Day has come and gone.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm wondering, rather than going through all the events, because I'm aware it is 10 to 8.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I know there are some key things.
There are some key things. So just to say,
everyone's read the papers. There's
the purple items are the things that you're sort of saying yes to when you get to the end.
Yeah.
So everything in purple, there isn't any surprises in the purple though.
Okay.
That's good. Yes, so I've got a few things that, hello, that I would like to
something to
discuss.
say about the purple things, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. So there are a few things that have happened over the last week, and one of those have been certain questions from Frome Friends of Palestine about our support for their events, or our lack of support for their events. Our line on the notice boards has always been that we don't disseminate any political flyers. That's what it says in our media and PR policy. And also is in line with local government legislation, is the Local Government Act, isn't it? Yeah. We have also had to turn down fundraising events for humanitarian aid on our land because of the Frome Friends of Palestine badging, if you like, of the events, but actually that is something that maybe does feel like it's deserving of discussion, given that it's around humanitarian aid and that we do host a hub for displaced people. So I guess what we're doing is inviting councillors to discuss that with a view to maybe looking at whether we should have a position statement on it.
Yeah, and potentially whether we update our policy. So before this meeting, we spoke, the three of us, and I asked Peter to kind of find what is the current policy. Do you want to read the wording, Peter?
Very happy to. So this is the wording within the media communications policy, and it's actually some time since this policy was brought to councillors. I think the last time that it was looked at was back in 2020, so some 5 years ago. Anyway, what it says is that in terms of the legal context, it says that there's been guidance to town councils contained in the Code of Recommended Practice on Local Authority Publicity 2011, and it states a number of principles for the council to follow. It says publicity by local authorities should be lawful, be cost-effective, be objective, be even-handed, be appropriate, have regard to equality and diversity, be issued with care during periods of heightened sensitivity, and the council must have regard to it and follow its provisions. The policy goes on to say that news releases will not promote the views of specific political groups or persuade the general public to hold a particular view. And the other thing to say is that the Local Government Act 1986 provides the legal basis for the codes that have come out of, nationally, which are reflected in our own policy.
Thank you. So the question is, so this has come up because Frome Friends of Palestine have asked us whether we can put up their leaflets on our notice boards, and also whether they can run events on our open spaces. And then it seemed like, is this actually, is the response we've been giving consistent? And is the response that we've been giving in line with what this group of councillors and this council actually wants to do? Or is it a legacy thing that hasn't yet been revisited? Fiona was first and then Nick.
I think this is really difficult, and I think it's obviously a really sensitive one. I think that it's really interesting hearing the sort of the legal basis for this and the requirement. I think, first of all, I think that definitely when it comes to sort of party political, I think we can sort of distinguish there. That to me feels absolutely no, and I think that's what we have been saying. I think that it's really difficult when it comes to international issues. I think that for me, there's a massive difference between sort of something that is sort of, a fundraiser for humanitarian aid and something that's sort of like, for UN recognized, UN has declared it a genocide, haven't they? And a famine, I think. Anyway, yes. So I think it has been recognised by the international community as, as something and something that is definitely about sort of providing humanitarian aid and supporting people who are, in a horrific situation, and things that sort of then maybe sort of propose what the solution would be, or that's on one side, and then getting into sort of arguing for a certain outcome other than can we just not have people starving and dying, please, which is human rights as far as I'm concerned. So I think that this is very sensitive and nuanced, but I do think that I think it's also difficult because how much control do we then, if we were to sort of support them and, to have an event, are they then, willing and able to stick within our guidelines? And does that then put us potentially in conflict with them as well? Like, that's what I'm slightly unsure of as well. There's the, and how much of a say do we then have over what happens at that event? Because obviously there is the potential that something could happen at that event that would go into something we wouldn't be comfortable about. That would breach that legal framework. I think when it comes to sort of things on the board, I guess there it's a bit more sort of like we can say yes or no, right? As long as it doesn't, anything that encourages hate speech or further divisiveness or violence or anything, to me is absolute no. But I do think that there's room where we're talking about humanitarian aid. But it's very difficult.
Did you still want to speak?
Yeah, I don't think it's difficult at all or complicated at all. I think it's an absolutely abhorrent thing that's happening. I think it's a terrible crime that's taking place, and I think we should adopt a position that we support the call for support for hundreds of thousands of people who are trapped within a part of the world held effectively in a concentration camp, and thousands have been killed. And I don't think it's political, it's a humanitarian thing. I think it's just dreadful. I think we're not saying overthrow the Israeli government. What we're saying is what's happening is terrible. We would support people saying that's terrible.
I fully agree with you on that. I'm just saying that it's difficult because I fully agree with you, and I think that's what I'm saying is that if it is about humanitarian, like, this is awful. But then there is a line here, and on something like an event, that is very hard to manage. That line is all I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying that means that we shouldn't do it. I'm saying that I think that's something we have to consider, that, who's to say that someone doesn't get up and get a mic and start saying something? And are we okay with that? Maybe we are, but it's something we need to.
We were talking about allowing them to post things on our.
Yeah, which I think is.
Yeah.
And
we can't then control what people say. I mean, Sarah could run amok with the Beaver Watch, couldn't she? God knows what could happen there. We can't. I mean, I know it's.
Yeah, you're right. There's something that could happen at any event, like anyone. Sort of the Carnival Fun Day, someone could pick up a microphone and could say something. You're right. There is a
process for every single event.
Yeah.
Can you explain that process?
Yes. So the process is anybody who wants to do an event in our parks and open spaces fills in a form. It comes into Nikki. Nikki then has a look, and it's held against our strategic objectives. Can we help? Is it something that we are able to look at? Even something such as canteen, we have to think about, for example, because they wanted to cook outside. Anything that has, that is not something that we, even the Lions events, which have been happening for a long time, we still have to be in negotiation with them. then they have to submit their event plan, their risk assessment, their public liability, and only when we've got all of those things down do we give them permission to have the event in the park. We try and be as light touch as we possibly can in most cases, and sometimes we'll deploy event stewards if we think there may be a little bit of difficulty, for example, getting people on and off the park can be slightly difficult. Certainly, we've had event support stewards on car watch to make sure we don't get too many cars in the parks and open spaces.
Every event has to go through this process, so it's not like a carte blanche.
No.
So, Andy, you wanted to say something, and then I'm going to ask Peter to highlight something. Yeah.
So, to me, allowing an event to take place in one of our public spaces in support of humanitarian aid for this disaster is absolutely the right thing to do. And to put up posters on our notice boards promoting that event is equally the right thing to do. What I see a line between then is using our posters to promote the political entity itself or the organisation itself. That, I think, remains outside of what we want to happen.
Thank you. I just wanted, one of the criteria was around the heightened sensitivity, which I think why this has particularly come up.
I think that's fair to say, and that's very clearly within the code. You know, where there is heightened sensitivity over a particular issue, then a local authority such as ours must take some care. That doesn't mean necessarily that any publicity is prohibited, and it's actually worth noting within the Code of Recommended Practice on Local Authority Publicity, so this is the nationally published code, that it is acceptable for local authorities to host publicity prepared by third parties, provided that care is taken, and it talks about us having a system for moderating and removing any unacceptable material. Mm-hmm. It also goes on to say that it is generally acceptable for local authorities to host publicity, such as a blog, I mean that's just an example, which itself contains links to external sites over which the local authority has no control, where the content of those sites will not itself comply with this code. So I think what it's saying is that there are certain things that are prohibited, but other than that, there is some discretion that we have over the publicity that we can provide.
Yeah. And I think this is one of those occasions when not to do something is sending as strong a message as doing something, and it's not to do something is sending the opposite message from the one that we want to promote.
I think it's also come about because there has been inconsistencies because the political organisation has been confusing.
And also
people seeing it as such.
And also, have we done events in support of Ukraine? We have, which to me feels, I think it's really important because I think that maybe if we do rewrite the policy or whatever we say, if we say that anything to do with an international dispute, is there like a heightened, so rather than, not that I don't, but that there's, it goes a level up in terms of sign off, whether it's Rachel or Paul or whoever it is, and we just make sure that there's a sort of, we have a sort of an extra level put in, not to say that I don't, not for that, but just for protecting all of us, that it's sort of like, can we just say when it's something to do with international issues, there's some sort of extra caution that is taken to sort of protect us maybe when it comes to writing it, and that it requires a higher sign off or something.
Just going to hear from Mark. We haven't heard from him yet, so.
And, well, unfortunately, this is something I feel strongly about. I agree with Nick that this disaster happening in Gaza, Palestine, of course it is. Nobody would object sending any humanitarian aid if it can get through to help the people caught up in that. However, if we allow our open spaces to be used by an organisation which will turn up with flags, banners, protesting to raise this fund, the optics of that, I think, is too political for us to wear. I think it also feels threatening to people who don't sympathise with Palestine, or, well, let's say, with Jewish people. I'm related by marriage to, I know you are. and I'm related by marriage to several Jewish people who, and they've mentioned to me that seeing the Palestinian demos have felt threatening. And so I, especially with my open spaces head on, I would vote against this be happening if it were to be organised. If it would be organised by a neutral organisation, organised by us, I could see that. But it would be organised by people with flags, banners, loud hailers, and some people would be very upset by that.
Can I just check? So if, because we've had, the conversation that's we've had so far is around recognising that the requests both for the leaflet and for the events has been around raising awareness of a humanitarian disaster and fundraising, as opposed to trying to get people to sign up to a particular organisation. Does it make a difference to you what it is, or is it just the fact of just that name, Frome Friends of Palestine, and a Palestinian flag is enough for you to turn it down? I'm just going to hear from Sarah.
Do you know what? Pride offends some people. Some people hate seeing the rainbow flags. You can't not do stuff for fear of pissing people off, as I think you all know that's what I think anyway. And I think as a council, well, partly our open spaces belong to Frome townspeople. And if some people want to use those for highlighting humanitarian causes, then I think we should be thinking that that's okay. Anyone can do it, if some bunch of Jews want to come and start talking about Zionism, they can do that too. They won't, but they could.
Can they though? Because this is then I think where we have to be very careful, because there could be Jewish community could want to do a fundraiser, I mean, are we saying, because I think this is where I think consistency is where we need to be really, really important on this if we're changing this, and I don't know what I feel about that, and I think I am sort of in the middle here, because I do think we also have a policy around inclusivity and safety in our open spaces, and it is really important. But then I also take your point, Zoe, about pride, and I think that is really well made. That I don't know what I think.
I've been thinking about the mechanism, and obviously the first place we went to was the policy. But I wonder if, not dissimilar to the Ukraine, we didn't change the policy. What we did was we made a position statement about Ukraine. I wonder whether we could maybe think about making a position statement that fitted and that made it clear that certain levels of demonstration weren't, that it had to, we can put in whatever it is that we look to agree. But you can say, it can't be a political rally. You can say it has to be a fundraising event. We could certainly put event staff in to oversee, to support.
We went all out for Ukraine. We fundraised relentlessly for Rabka. We held parties, we did a lot, and we made our position very clear. And it's making me wonder why, that was sensitive too. That was sensitive as well. So what is it about saying that same thing about Palestinians that's that different, really?
Peter wanted to say something.
I think it's important just to really kind of put a line in the sand here, because there is something that is prohibited by law, by the Local Government Act 1986. What is prohibited is the publication by local authorities of material which in whole or in part appears to be designed to affect public support for a political party. That's from what I can see, that's the only thing that is prohibited. In other cases, it's down to the local authority's discretion as to whether it supports publicity of various different issues, causes in the community. But I think it is also important to stress that the national code suggests that, you know, when there are periods of heightened sensitivity, and certainly now is a moment when there is heightened sensitivity, we have to take real care over that. But I think that probably what Rachel is suggesting takes that on board. Anyway, I think it's clearly a matter for further debate.
I'm just wondering what this conclusion or decision do we need to make at this stage that can help Rachel to move things forward and literally to help the front desk to deal with these requests, because at the moment it's a kind of inconsistent answer.
I think a position statement, I think, is actually quite a good solution to this. I think in a way our policy is actually quite clear. So I think we're sort of responding to like a specific situation. I think that maybe that needs to come back to either this committee or a council meeting for approval. So maybe it is a case of saying at the moment, you know, like we are working on a, you know, so sort of hold off, we are looking at this. I think it is. I think what's different here, and because I completely get what you're saying, so I really do, and you know, for me, it's you know, there's right and there's wrong, and I fully get that. I think what's different is it's like the stuff around it is what's making this different. Is that, you know, the Russia-Ukraine, particularly when it started, felt very different in terms of it wasn't sort of politicized in the same way. There was united, you know, all the sort of the political party was sort of all on the same side, and the discussion and the discourse was very different. And I think that it is, you know, we may not agree that it's different. I don't think it is. I think there's right and there's wrong, and it's the same situation here. But there is something that's different about this. And I'm just trying to I think we need to recognise that. And it's a discourse and the energy around at the moment that I do think we need to be sensitive about. But I think a statement that makes it clear that we're happy to support something that is about fundraising for humanitarian aid, but that we would expect those events to follow very strict guidelines and to not go into, you know, and if they break them, then that means that we don't hold them again. Like, I think that's the kind of key thing here. So I think there is something but we need to say it very, very clearly what is okay and what isn't.
Andy, and then
yeah, I think the challenge also is the policing of those guidelines. So if we were hosting something in our open spaces that got out of control, it's not fair to expect volunteer stewards or indeed any member of our paid staff to take the responsibility of pulling the plug and saying, no, you've gone too far. I don't know how we enforce those guidelines.
Just to say, from an events perspective, there is always an event controller, there's always somebody in charge, and that is their job to make sure the event doesn't get out of hand. It could be, you know, somebody slips in the middle of an event and you can't carry on the event because you can't get round them. That is the nature of events.
And it's not like these events haven't already happened, right? Completely peacefully and with no problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my understanding is the decision that we've come to is that Rachel will go away and create a position statement, and that will come back to, does that need to be ratified at council? Not officially.
I mean, I would suggest maybe, and this is something that you might want to consider here in this committee, I would suggest that something of this kind of level of sensitivity might be considered at council. So there is an opportunity for all councillors to take part in the discussion, and obviously if it's on the agenda for a council meeting, then that provides an opportunity for members of the community to participate in a conversation about that. So that would be my suggestion. It sounds as though that might be a way forward that others accept.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. You have another delightful topic.
I have. Please, could I have my slide? Sorry, this too is not a joyous thing to be thinking about. Hostile vehicle mitigation measures. This is really just to put it across your, there we are, that's it. Just to show you what I'm talking about. Both the Frome Independent and we, or more particularly our Christmas event, have been flagged as a place of overcrowding. This, along with our topography, means that as a matter of urgency, we need to bolster our hostile vehicle mitigation in order to meet required standards, particularly in the face of upcoming new legislation, Martin's Law. We have been waiting for it for quite a long time, but it is definitely coming down the track. Martin's Law puts the onus on event organisers for the safety of their public, even if they are in a open street, public open space. So one of the dangerous things that has happened are vehicles ploughing into crowds. Frome is in a bowl. It doesn't take too much, imagination to see something happening, even if not something like terrorism. Somebody having a heart attack at the wheel and ploughing into, that's certainly happened before. So to that end, sadly it has. Yeah. So to that end, we've begun looking into some of the things that we might need. Now, this piece of work is not conclusive, but we just thought it might be a good idea to come air it at this meeting, because it's the meeting that deals with events, and we're talking fundamentally about event infrastructure and infrastructure that will keep our residents and visitors alike safe. But as you can see, it's not cheap. Probably our preferred method will be something that is either built in or gate, but there are other options available to us that can be hired, rolled in, moved in and out. It's a broader piece of work, and it's really just to flag that is something that we need to address before the Christmas event safety management plan gets signed off by the police. This is not just impacting us, it's also impacting the Frome Independent and also the Carnival. So we're all in the same position. Therefore, it seems that we should come up with a Frome solution.
Just to say, I think it's about keeping people in Frome safe. So anything that we need to do, we need to do. I think if we can do something that helps the other organisations as well, or work together, share the cost, etc., that would be beneficial. But yeah, it would be good to see the sort of the different options and the breakdowns and in a proper report. But I do think, yeah, we have to do what we have to do. And I think it's really sad, but I think we do need to keep Frome safe.
Nick?
I'm sorry, I think it's a complete load of nonsense. In 2005, there were suicide bombers in London. On the basis of that, they had this whole thing about crowded places and what councils and police were going to do all around the country to deal with it. You had the shoe bomber from wherever that was, this guy who was in Frome, and now we've got to take our bloody shoes off when we go through airports. Do we have to do this, or are they saying they advise us to do it? Are the police saying they won't allow us to do events without it?
We've been issued a notice which says that we are the Christmas event is a place of overcrowding, and that therefore we need to do significant planning with their team. And one of the things that they will be looking at and need to address is this. I mean,
can't we just park a vehicle on the top of Bath Street?
So that's currently our hostile vehicle mitigation. Absolutely, is that I mean, that's what we and Frome Independent deploy, and we also use the metal barriers. And the fact is, the legislation's coming that means you have to use something that will stop a moving vehicle of a certain weight in a certain distance. And
right, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know it's difficult. It just is. I mean, Marco probably has a similar fear, but this whole industry built up around fear and stuff. Where's the intelligence that says that Frome is going to be the subject of an attack? what are the chances of that happening? To me, it's crazy, and I think we should look at the cheapest option. We shouldn't be spending £34,000 on something or anything like that, I think.
So the 30, that is hiring things in, and that's what the independent are having to currently do, which obviously seems like an absolute waste of a resource. Really everything else seems cheap in comparison.
I disagree with Nick. I do. I think,
Peter was just about to give us some extra information.
Well, I think that an important consideration here is that we know that new legislation is coming into being, known as Martin's Law, which followed the bombing in Manchester. So I think what the police are doing here is that they're getting us thinking about what the implications might be of that new legislation. Really, I think that's the basis for beginning to think about what we might do in response to that.
Fiona, did you still want to disagree vehemently, or?
Great that there's a new law coming in. To me, it makes sense that we start doing a bit of homework about what we might need, but until that law is legislation and we know what the guidelines are, I can't see how we justify putting any money down on the ground on this until we know what it is we've got to mitigate against.
I think Rachel had thought that through already.
Well, just to say that how road closures work is, although it's all been put in, we won't get the road closure order until they're satisfied that the event is going to be run safely, and one of the statutory consultees are the police. So if the police say that they're not satisfied, there is a danger, I guess, that we won't get the road closure order and therefore not be able to run the event.
So, the sense is it's coming down the line anyway. And I know Rachel's thinking was to be ahead of it and to give us a heads up of we're going to have to spend something, and basically just warning us. And then the next steps will really be, I guess, a timeline. Is that going to come in place ready for the November Lantern Walk? Will we have to have something before then?
Ideally, I think the answer to that is yes. We'll try and get a definitive answer from Ben, but I would imagine so. Probably my next steps are to at least write a proper paper. Nobody's seen this before, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up as we were. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. We've all been educated.
Sorry.
Right. Are we passing it on to the next paper?
Actually, we've just got recommendations to do, if you don't mind.
Okay, so we have to vote on this. This was the table with the purple to refresh. Okay, anyone right to propose? Nick, thank you. Andy, seconded. All those in favour of those recommendations? Thank you.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
That's quite enough from me. So now we're going to...
Thank you, Rachel. Well done.
So now we're going to Fiona.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next item on the agenda, which is a discussion on exploring a community engagement platform. We're going to have Fiona speaking, then Miles. Hannah, are you speaking? You're here to answer questions. Yeah, thank you.
And then we've got some discussion questions at the end to sort of talk a bit about it. So this is something that we have been talking about for a while. I seem to remember it being raised sort of quite early on in us, a group of councillors, sort of early discussions. I think as sort of a group of councillors, we all sort of recognise how important it is for people to be able to contribute to the decisions that we make and the broader decisions in the area, and also for us to sort of be enabling people to take action themselves. One of the things that stood out in the picture of Froome research to me personally was the lower percentage on average of people in Froome who have taken part in any civic engagement. And I think we all sort of felt a bit like, oh, that's interesting given, what we do. And also, we did have comments around sort of that were flagged in the report around sort of decision making and value for money and transparency, etc. And there were also lots of comments from people wanting to contribute more to local decision making and not sort of necessarily sort of knowing how. We've used a few different sort of digital engagement methods over the last 10 years. Lots of them were used sort of before my time, but sort of things like Commonplace. But what they've all been is they've been lots of sort of different platforms we've sort of used for sort of an individual project, and then sort of and in a certain way, and then we sort of use a different one. So there's never been sort of one specific place where people can go to and where they're encouraged to sort of go back to sort of engage on a regular basis. And we've also been having lots of conversations around, the Act to Adapt workshop was brilliant and there was so much energy in the room. But then what happens to all that energy afterwards? Like, how do we sort of, like, without putting ourselves in the way, how do we sort of encourage people to take action themselves? Like, bring people together who are really interested in working together on a specific thing or wanting to do something themselves. So for the last sort of few months or so, Carla, Hannah, Rachel, Miles and myself, we've sort of met a few times. So it's sort of definitely a sort of a joint project from both the communities team and the communications team, have met a few times to sort of begin discussing this and what it might look like and what we might want to do. To be clear, the point of this is not to replace face-to-face engagement or any of the sort of other work. Not everyone can access a digital platform, but it's adding something else, I guess, to what we do, or sort of like combining, which could be quite efficient in the sense of rather than us doing or setting something up separately every single time, developing a platform. And lots of these platforms also include lots in terms of like two-way engagement. So us also being able to sort of inform people and let people know about, what they would be giving an opinion on, rather than something like Facebook, which is like, shout and give your opinion. We would be able to sort of engage in a conversation. There's lots of the platforms that we've sort of been looking at are, sort of at the cutting edge of this stuff. They're being used increasingly by local authorities. We would be one of the first, or the first town council, so something at this level sort of, using it, which would be, great in terms of cutting edge and us sort of doing something different. And also we've had discussions about maybe getting discounts, etc., because of that. And so, so that was just a sort of a broad. Have I missed anything in terms of like where this has come from? We agreed it is in the work programme, and it's also one of our priorities for this year as well, which is around sort of increasing engagement in our decision making and participation in our like council meetings and stuff. So it sort of feeds into that, and also increasing understanding of what we as a council do, because so that's sort of where this has come from. Have I missed anything? Is that all right? Cool. Miles is going to sort of actually give you some proper information.
Hello. So I'll just briefly explain the very basics of what a digital engagement platform is, because sometimes it just sounds like waffle and people haven't necessarily been understanding what it is when we ask them in the Communicating with Us survey. So it's a website that has a wide range of tools for community engagement and decision making. Using a platform like the ones we're looking at, we could create a dedicated online space for participation, and that toolbox would include things like surveys that we already do, but we use a separate just survey-only platform for, ideas sharing, open discussions, mapping, voting, participatory budgeting, and creating working groups. So it's quite a wide range of tools. And then along with that, they would give us the option to share the project timelines and the updates and outcomes. And that would, as Fiona said, that would all be in one place rather than scattered across different websites and different channels. And it would sit alongside our own website, and it would use our Froome Town Council branding, so it'd be recognisable as us. And that's obviously branding that people already know and have some level of trust in. so they know that their data's not going to some far-flung server somewhere. So if I can have the next slide. This is an example from Wigan Council. So they have their landing page, which is customized to them and includes their branding. And they have a number of projects that they're working on or that they finished. And they also have a page with information about how the data is stored and used in their About This platform and their FAQ. And they have a tab for digital support. So that signposts people to ways to get online for free, access to free devices and things like that. If I can have the next slide. So some of the benefits of using a platform like this would be that it would work in tandem with what we do in person and help reach the people whose views were less likely to capture in person, so the people that were less likely to see at events. And it just offers a choice of ways to engage, so more people can be heard in various different ways. It would bring separate projects together that would otherwise be scattered across several platforms, and hopefully that would create less confusion and more clarity. It would be tailored for community-led participation, so empowering our community and working with them, not doing to them. It would support ward-based engagement, discussions around individual open spaces, and new ways for participatory budgeting and grant making. So those are things that we're sort of looking to do that we don't currently necessarily have the tools to do. And it would also allow people to see how we worked with the community to shape a project, what the next step were, and celebrate the outcome they helped shape for improved transparency. So, you know, people can see, I gave my opinion on this, this is what other people said as well, and this is what happened. And then the next slide, obviously there are some challenges as well. One of the big challenges would be to get the community on board, to get them to sign up. Any platform would require people to sign up with their name and email address to use most of the features. So getting people over that first hurdle would require a really strong comms campaign. Some platforms provide a lot of support with setup and training, but there's still a significant amount of staff time involved. The financial cost for these types of platforms begins around £10,000 a year for fairly limited features, and up to 19,000 or above with the sort of wide range of features that we're looking for. However, we have had early talks with one platform who offered us a discount of 30% on the first year, which would mean paying £10,500 for the first year and £15,000 thereafter. And that's part of a value exchange to help inform their future offer to town councils. The final challenge would be that we would be an early adopter at the town and parish level. So there are lots of county and borough councils that use this kind of platform that have populations over 100,000. It could be an opportunity for us to lead the way, but it also means that current benchmarking opportunities at this kind of population level are quite limited, and the challenges would be harder to anticipate. But we're going to have a discussion about that next. Are there any questions before we have a discussion?
That was a really great summary, Miles. Thank you. Just to add about the face-to-face stuff, one of the things that seemed quite appealing about these platforms was it offers a way. One of the most time-consuming things around the Picture of Froome work was the collation and analysis of that qualitative face-to-face stuff. And a lot of these platforms, the one we've been looking at, offers a way to absorb that into the online information as well. So, yeah.
How much? So you talk about 10 grand for the actual software. You talk about staff training and costs, and then on costs. How many staff would be involved in this? So what would the cost be compared with us piggybacking on the existing Frome Town Council website and just adding something to it?
So the cost that we were talking about from £10,000 to £15,000, that includes the platform hosting, so there's no extra cost for that. In terms of, so that would be really the cost. In terms of staff time, most of the platforms specify sort of a 6 to 8 week onboarding period. Obviously, that would be some of their work as well, setting it up for us and training. But I mean, there would be discussions to be had around which staff are going to be doing what on a day-to-day sort of level with it.
I think just to add to that, we did look at the question of we did discuss adding something onto our website. I mean, I think first of all, we all know that the Frome Town Council website needs redoing. And also I think that there's also something there that in terms of the bit that we've looked for, and we think we found with the one that we're looking at, which is called Go Vocal, is we wanted to do something that did both the participation decision-making bit, and then also that thing that, Nick, you and I have discussed around, like, how do we get people to do working groups themselves? And there's a way to use this platform so that people who go to an event, who go to something like the Act to Adapt workshop, and then come away saying, I'm really interested in, like what you were saying, in doing something in this area around this thing, can then find other people and they can do it themselves. And that's not something we could really do on the Frome Town Council website, because it would have to follow our structure, if that makes sense. So there's extra things. I think it will be similar to Discover Frome. Like Discover Frome, redoing that website has been an investment in staff time. It has taken, really my a lot of Amber's time and a significant amount of Rachel's. But we're now in a position where Amber's time is now freed up to do more curation of articles around, what's going on in the town, etc. And I think that long term, I think something like this would save us in terms of staff time, but it will be an investment up front, or it won't be any more staff time is what I would say, because I think, but it would be an investment to get it up and running. But that, one of the questions, if we go into the questions that your concerns about investing in using a platform like this, like the idea here is for us to have a discussion to then kind of feed into a formal decision-making paper. So if you're raising a concern about the amount of staff time, like that's really good for us to know, and we can take that into account.
I had a meeting incidentally today with 3 people who were involved in the working groups we set up for the town centre staff nearly 3 years ago. And I said to them, how do you feel? And they said, we were so full of enthusiasm, we were so keen, and it just felt like we were waiting forever to things to actually happen, because we're reliant then on county level officers actually to agree we could do stuff. So it's all lost in it. If we had a system whereby, some of Hannah's neighbour networks could collaborate in a virtual way more and bring in more people, fantastic. But the worry is you kind of bring people and say, got this kind of excitement, we can do all these things, and then we can't deliver.
I feel your frustration as well, because I think we felt it after the International Women's Day event as well. Like there was so much energy in the room, and it's that dissipation. But I think it's also that of, again, sometimes it's us putting ourselves as like the point in the middle, whereas actually if we can encourage people to kind of take action themselves outside of us, I think that would really help. I think there's also something here about also that entire process that Miles, I think, explained really well. That's also, it also then provides ways to feed back to people who have contributed and have shared their opinions. So if they contribute something like Safer School Streets, they can then, I don't know whether they get an email saying this is the next stage. It went to council and this was the decision, and or this is what other people said. So it keeps people informed as well. So then that bit around, and it holds us accountable as well, therefore. But it's then that bit around people being able to see the result of their time spent engaging with us, because it follows the whole process through, which I think we have slightly struggled with sometimes before as well.
Also, would you mind going back to that initial slide where it's like inform, collaborate? Yeah, that one. So to me, that's the most powerful slide. So the other thing, if we think of International Women's Day, there were all these, 5 different groups really engaged around a different topic, but then it just relies upon email to kind of communicate. And whereas this platform actually allows intact teams to then collaborate. That would probably be the collaborate section. So again, I feel like this is the way things are moving, because it's a need. People are overwhelmed with emails and WhatsApp, and it's around a community of practice, but then can continue the work, or an action group that can continue their work, but actually having a digital place as well.
Yeah, that's
The orange.
yeah, Lindsay Mayhew, hi. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because everyone goes off with enthusiasm and they set up a WhatsApp group or they go to a Facebook group, and actually then you end up leaving those WhatsApp groups or those Facebook groups, or if you've got so many notifications on your phone, you just get WhatsApp fatigue. But if there was a really nice way of also staying in touch with like-minded people that you might have met at those events and had a passion for, oh, I'm very into local food and community or young people or babies, and it's a really good way of staying in touch with those people rather than joining like yet another WhatsApp group.
Yeah, it's a more sophisticated replacement for WhatsApp group and Facebook, or, you know, we kind of spoke about Slack in terms of the functionalities of Slack, but we didn't want to bring in a whole kind of very work-focused platform, actually, whereas this has the potential for all of those segments, right up to citizens' assemblies, community assemblies. You know, if I'm looking at some of the things in the work programme, we've got Young People's Participatory Grant, we've got the Co-Design Project, you know, all the skate park, all of these are potentials to use this platform.
New open spaces is one we've spoken about a lot.
Sorry, Andy.
I can see why we could get really excited about this, and I think it's a great way to look forward. But I do think that it needs very careful scoping and very careful consideration about the staff time that it will consume, because actually to get the best feedback from this, you've got to have people ready to create a project plan for what we're going to do and update a project plan to tell everybody that this is what we have done. And that's one of the things that we've been criticised for in the past, is that lack of structure around the projects that we deliver. And if we are going to go down this path, I think we've got to build some of that into the background consideration of the time it's going to consume.
Can I just come on that? Because I think all of that does happen, but it kind of happens behind the scenes. And in a way, this will kind of bring it forward, be more transparent, or some, you know, most of that does happen. So I think I do get your point. I can see that there is a real concern here about stuff. And I think we need to address that in whatever, you know, in a paper that does come.
Can we move the presentation back to the final questions, the discussion questions? Rachel. Sorry, I thought you wanted to say something. No.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so those, yeah, exactly. We wanted to hear concerns. Anything else that you specifically want to see if we were to invest in this community engagement platform? And then in launching this, as Rachel mentioned, one of the key hurdles is going to be engaging people initially, particularly if they have to sign up using their email address. It's important that we have a project that's going to really force people, they really want to engage. So what would be your ideas on what that project could be? And I'm inviting staff members to speak as well, not just this lot here.
Just occurred to me, does it have to be a Frome Town Council project? I mean, imagine if everybody in the town got the chance to contribute to the Saxon Vale project, for example.
I think what that's quite interesting is also that it could be used by other organisations as well. Like we could also, once we've paid for it, I think we get almost unlimited use of it, right? So then, you know, if Adventure wanted to do a piece of, you know, we could sort of host it on that, or Canteen wanted to do something. We've had conversations about this a bit. I mean, I am really keen to get people more engaged in our like work program and budget setting and sort of strategy. And it's probably, we're probably not looking at this year because of timelines, etc. So I think that there's something about us doing, you know, the more stuff around the adaptation strategy, around the open spaces, around participatory budgeting, maybe a few sort of smaller projects to kind of test out, find our feet with it. But I do think that, you know, I think there's ways, and I think also, again, that's a way of also informing, you know, like showing people where does our money go, like that you know, that pie chart, and you know, and taking people on a process that sort of shows where we spend the money, as well as sort of asking for their views on it. So, I mean, I'd be really keen to sort of, you know, and we have to be very careful and very considered about how we do that and make sure that it's done in the right way. But personally, I'm quite excited about doing something like that next year, because I think it would be really, I think it would be really interesting to see, you know, yeah, and it's also an opportunity to sort of really engage with people as well and inform at the same time.
Can I just check with Mark? What do you think in terms of open spaces?
With regard to using this platform to discuss how they're being used, yes, it would be useful if you could get, as always, it's getting people to engage with it in the first place. How do we advertise it? How do we sell it to people? How do we, the information we get on it would be useful and informing for us, but how do we get people to use it in the first place?
And I'm wondering, sorry, we'll come to you, just Hannah, in terms of the usage for Brunel Way, what were your ideas on that?
I think one of the nice things about this platform is that it has a range of different things. So for somewhere like Brunel Way, they have a mapping option where you could collate comments and, you know, share, have an ideation stage, but also have a commenting section that's map focused as well, so people can be very specific about Brunel Way and the corridors that attach them. Also, what's really exciting is it sounds like you can capture voice recordings of people that you're out and about talking to, and it will upload it into the mechanisms and turn it into useful stuff.
Sarah and then Nick.
I was just going to say, I mean, I love it all. I love it all. I think I definitely see its main use as being for really local stuff that you're talking about there. I would struggle to see its value in terms of some of the bigger issues, cross-town issues, the bigger issues that we can't do anything about, no matter what people say. My concern would be that it offers people an opportunity to talk about stuff that we can't influence or shape or do anything about. I definitely like that example that you just used on a hyper-local level where people genuinely are engaged because it's about what's happening on their doorstep. I do see that kind of use for it, but right now I struggle to see its use in terms of the bigger picture, with the added challenge of getting people engaged, with the added exclusion that digital platforms bring anyway, precluding the type of people who generally are the type of people that get engaged in this kind of stuff. So, you know, there's a bit of a chicken and egg thing there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hannah, a bit of a kind of ambush question, but how many people have we got sort of connected on neighbour networks, would you say, in total, roughly?
So the Neighbour Network now actually is an independent group, and so we don't have the sort of data around it. But do you mean people that are in active neighbourhood groups?
Yeah, I mean, if we were saying, right, this would be great, but how many people we already got engaged in sort of groups working locally to promote, you know, say Alexandra Road, for example, how many of those networks have we got, and what are those number of people already doing stuff, and how would we then look at the sign up to this? Because this, you know, the value of this would be if lots and lots of citizens signed up.
Yeah,
to it.
I'm not sure that those figures would inform that information. I think if you were doing a piece of work around Brunel Green or one of the other new open spaces, it would just be the means by which people engage with it. It wouldn't necessarily be the active, it wouldn't necessarily be the only active neighbourhood groups that would inform that work. And that's which is kind of what we find when we go out to spaces and talk to people. They're not necessarily the people that are engaged with the already existing neighbourhood groups. That's why thanks. That was that makes sense.
I think so. My point is, the work you and your team have done for the last however many years has been fantastic and brilliant. But if we said that work, that input in terms of staff costs and time has led to 1,000 people being spread across the town in neighbourhood networks, then what will this bring in terms of value, in terms of numbers, and so on and so on?
Mike, can I just say, I don't think that we can measure the communities team just by neighbourhood networks. That feels like a massively reductive.
Oh, I'm not saying that's all they're doing. I'm just saying the work they've done, that team, what have we got in terms of, because it's so hard. You can get people like the Pack Saddle group massively engaged over a single.
Can I also, so I think this is rather than being like this is going to result in active citizens doing neighbourhood things, I think this is a blanket tool which would have the option to do widespread stuff, which if you think about school streets and the devolution package, actually from a bigger topic point of view, it would have been really helpful to have had a platform like this. And it will do that local stuff that would be really useful, but it wouldn't necessarily, the aim of it isn't necessarily to then create active neighbourhood groups that will, it's it'll be very project
decide
dependent.
how we use it as well. If there's a particular, like a hyper-local project, which we know that people are going to have an opinion on, we can use it for that. And also we can test and see, right? We can experiment different parts of it. I'm going to pass to Rachel, and then we're going to move on because it is 10 to 9. And I want to make use of the fact that Hannah is in the room and we do have these reports.
Can I just say, one of the most exciting sort of digital platform things that we've seen in Frome probably today is the Green and Healthy Your Priorities board, which was amazing. 200 projects there, 200 ideas for people to get involved. Sue has done a cracking job of turning those into actual projects, but just imagine if all of those groups could have had could have had a conversation. They could have all, formulated themselves. They could have just had that conversation, been that glue themselves. I mean, that would have been really even more exciting than it already
and also that it wasn't just because it then sort of disappeared a bit, I think, as well. I mean, I know Sue's used it, but we've never seen it, right? So then it's also like having it all in one place, etc. And yeah.
Do you want to just move to the last slide of next steps so you know what's happening afterwards? So that's basically what we're going to continue exploring the different platforms, taking into consideration things that we've just spoken about, and then we'll bring any updates to a future council meeting. Okay. So lastly, we do have the review of the community engagement and development, climate emergency and resilience, marketing and communications and town centre work programmes. So at the first meeting of this committee, we agreed that we would have a light touch overview of each of the work programmes using the delightful RAG rating. But basically,
we have a scale, can I just say?
Good. So Matt's not here. We've got all the papers in front of us. Hannah is here. Actually, you were going to speak about this, weren't you, Peter? Did you?
Only very briefly. I mean, the reality is that the paper covers a huge amount of work that's been going on in the various teams, and hopefully it's been quite informative about the highlights, but also some of the sticking points. And in many ways, those sticking points represent challenges that the members of those teams are working through. They're not necessarily insurmountable, but we felt it was important for you to be aware of some of those challenges that they're facing and some of the strategies that staff are using to work through those challenges. So I think really the key question is, do you have any questions or comments on really anything within the paper, either the highlights or the various sticking points? What we have done is we put the sticking points on slides here in case you want to focus on those in particular. But I mean, we'll take any questions or comments.
Can I just say, first of all, I'm happy to answer any questions on the climate stuff in Matt's absence. I might not be able to, but I'm happy to. Can I just say, I just really appreciated these papers. I think that personally, I thought that they felt really helpful and really informative. As I said, I love the fact that we actually have a scale for that has been a bugbear of mine for quite a while. And I appreciate the fact that not everything is green. And I think it sort of shows a really honest and, nuanced approach to things. And we all recognise that sometimes things don't always work out perfectly and projects do get stuck. And I found the breakdown of the positives and the sticking points really helpful to kind of get a sense of where the teams were at and what was going on. So, and I found it really interesting and not too heavy. It felt like, so that was just my impression.
Yeah, it made it dead easy to find a couple of questions to ask. So if I may, first off, the comment about the work on compiling something about what FTC does. My memory is that Open Storytellers did a really good piece on that. Are we building on that rather than starting from the bottom?
Yes, so we absolutely are. So we've approached Open Storytellers already to see if they can do something, and we wanted to do a leaflet that replaces what Frome does, but also something that's like a one-pager that will explain the, explainer that will do the council plan. And whilst we were discussing that with them, they came back under budget for that piece of work, but then also gave a suggestion, which does feel like a really excellent suggestion, to making a film. But that will be an additional £6,000. So that's something that we will.
That's good to know. Thanks.
Need to bring back.
Okay. And then the other question was the Palmer Street event. What's stopping that progressing, and what do we do about making it progress?
Sorry, that's me too. Yeah, so what's stopping it is we need a further conversation with Somerset Licensing, and that is really what's stopping it. But it actually also has been a capacity from me as well. So I haven't chased it as much as I should have done. I'm still waiting a reply. So, yeah, I'm not really quite, to be honest, if anybody's got any other ideas about how to unstick that would be really useful. We're able to have conversations with the police licensing, but not actually with the Somerset.
That sounds like something we need to raise with our Somerset councillors then, to say, can we get this moving?
Yeah.
Because before we know it, the nice weather's going to have finished, and
I think we've already. It's not going to happen this year, but we'll keep going to make sure it does next year.
I was just going to say, so the sticking points are also opportunities for the staff to raise with us what support would be needed. So that's a perfect example.
So I had a meeting with Bill Revens on Tuesday, leader of Somerset Council, and I did raise with him, that there are a number of things that are getting stuck with Somerset Council at the moment, and what can we kind of do and how can we work together. He is, I think I'm allowed to say this, but he's hopefully getting some more officer support, and when he does, he will let us know. And then the idea will be that we can compile a list, maybe it's once a month or something, and it will come from Paul or Peter, and Bill and myself will be CC'd on it with the things that we're really trying to achieve at Somerset Council and are just getting stuck, basically. And he has said that he will then follow up on them as much as he can. So where things are getting stuck, I think that's hopefully, in a way, going to our Somerset councillors as good as they are, I'm not sure that that's really working at the moment. I think because of the issues at Somerset Council. So I think us having a direct line and something coming down from that level, I'm hopeful that will help. We're just going to have to try it and see. But I did raise that there are, that we are struggling with some things, and it's becoming frustrating. And he sort of said, please, email me, and I felt a bit, I was like, I can, but also I don't feel like this. So I think when the officer is in place, that will be a really good mechanism for us. And he's sort of been very supportive and understands our frustrations, and will do what he can.
Anyone else? Any questions from the work programme? Any comments? Sarah, Amber, Hannah, Miles, Nikki? Okay, I think we're done. 3 minutes to 9. The last one was only 45 minutes long, so made up for it. Thank you, everybody. Do I have any formal things to read? Peter? Next meeting is on 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 1st of October. See you there. Thank you.